Good day, everyone. Our report is all about the chapter 4, Assessment Strategies for English. So before we proceed to our discussion, I will introduce first the learning objectives. In this lesson, you will be able to define assessment of learning. Second, apply assessment strategies in the conduct of instruction. And understand the general use of assessment in teaching English. So, let's tackle first what is assessment. So, when we say assessment is conducted to determine whether the learners know, understand, and are able to perform knowledge and competencies required of them. So, when we say assessment, we all know that assessing knowledge and understanding is not a new thing. Because assessment in learning play an important role of the process in learning and motivation. It is important to consider how to best measure the learning that you want your students to achieve. This tells us what is a student learned, how will they learn it, and where they struggled. In addition, assessment is not only way we can measure student performance, but it is also a way for teachers to plan instruction and reflect on their own methods of teaching. So, assessment could be viewed into three lenses, which is assessment for learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. So when we say assessment for learning, this is a type of assessment that determines the learner's background knowledge and skills and track their progress in understanding. So it is also referred to as diagnostic assessment, or before the assessment is implemented. So what is diagnostic assessment? So when we say diagnostic assessment, can help you identify your student current knowledge of a subject. So as a teacher, we assist our learners by determining the learning that they already learned or know. In this case, it helps teachers to identify the topic that really fit for them. So, for example, you are going to discuss your newly topic to your students. First is you need to give some warm-up activities like pre-test or pre-assessment by establishing or by giving them strategy. Your learners can better track and measure their growth in each of knowledge standards. So the second one is assessment as learning. So this type of assessment is a more learner-centered approach. This lets the learners reflect on the result of her or his progress and plans the next steps to improve performance. So in other hand, assessment as learning referred to as formative assessment or during the assessment is implemented. So, and it is a type of assessment encourage the students to take an active role during the teaching learning process. During our discussion, we can ask our students to raise their hands if they feel that they have understood a newly introduced topic. In that way, we can monitor the students to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by teachers to improve teaching and by students to improve learning. So, in addition, assessment as learning assess a student comprehension and understanding of a lesson during a teaching learning process. And the last one is assessment of learning. So, this is the more traditional view of learning as a measures the learner's attainment of the learning objectives or goals of the lesson or of the standards. So, when we say assessment of learning, sometimes referred to as summative assessment or after the assessment was implemented. So, assessment of learning are typically administered the end of unit or grading period and evaluate students' understanding by his or her achievement. They sum up what that class can now do or would knows as a result of teaching instruction. Example of summative assessment in the classroom are graded tests, portfolio projects, book reports, final exam, and etc. The teachers can also use the result to evaluate how successful their teaching methods were and see if they need to be adjusted next time they teach that unit.
Everyone. I am the next reporter. My topic is all about what is assess. The teacher in the curriculum would focus more on the following areas to assist under the K to 12 curriculum. There are four areas to assist students under the said curriculum, which is the content standards, performance standards, learning competencies, and concept development. Let's tackle first the content standards. What is content standards? So the content standard is these are the essential understandings that the learner should learn. This is the fundamental concept and understanding that the students are expected to learn. They answer the question, what should the learners know? These standards outline the essential knowledge that students need to acquire throughout their educational journey as defined by K to 12 curriculum. Second one is performance standard. So, performance standard, these are the abilities that learners must be able to demonstrate in relation to content. In other words, it's about what students can do with the knowledge they have acquired. Performance standards evaluate the practical application of the learning concept. So, three, learning competencies. These are the knowledge, skills, and attitude that learners have to demonstrate in every lesson or activity. So, this encompass the knowledge, skills, attitude that students must display every lesson or activity. Learning competencies are broader than content and performance standard as they involve not only the understanding and application of the knowledge, but also the development of personal and social skills such as critical thinking, collaboration, and responsibility. The last one is the concept development. This is a measure of the how the learners are able to progress in the attaining of the standards. Concept development is another aspect of assessment in the K to 12 curriculum. It measures how students progress in attaining the established standards by monitoring their development. Teacher can identify areas where students may need additional support or resources, ensuring that they are on track to meet the desired learning outcomes.
How are learners assessed? So, this question is addressed to the teacher on how to assess their students or their learners. So, It says here, assessing learners involves more than just tests. It includes observing their daily activities in and out of class. So this means that the teacher not only give quizzes or exams to assess their students, one can also assess them through oral recitations, surprise class interaction, or etc. So next is teachers gather evidence from what students say, write, and do, like class interactions, presentations, and assignments. So this means that a teacher can do some pre-evaluation during discussion, like asking questions if the students study in advance, or asking questions after the topic just to know if the learners they listen to the current discussion. So this assessment follows a cycle. So first cycle is set learning goals. So we need to define learning outcome, no? Muna siya ang first cycle. So our goal might be for students to understand basic grammar concepts, like using past tense verbs correctly. So next is design assessment task. So you need to create assessment activities. No? We could give students a short story to read and ask them to circle the past tense verbs defined. Then they could write a few sentences using past tense verbs themselves. So the third one is evaluate results. So you need to analyze the learners' results. So after reviewing their work, we might notice that some students struggle with irregular past tense verbs, while others consistently use present tense instead of past tense. So finally, lastly is adjust lessons based on analysis. So you need to make adjustments. If irregular verbs are causing confusion, we might plan a fun game or song to help students remember them. For those struggling with tense usage, we might incorporate more practice activities in future lessons. So, four cycles. First is set learning goals. Next, design assessment task. Third is evaluate results. And fourth is adjust lesson based on analysis. So that's all.
So let's proceed to summative assessment or assessment of learning. Okay, so the purpose of summative assessment is to evaluate learners' performance usually at the end of the quarter, term, or year. So there are five common summative tests. First is periodic or quarterly examination. Periodic or quarterly examination is a test given at the end of each quarter to evaluate what students have learned during that time, and it helps teachers to measure how much students have understood and remember from the lessons, and it helps to determine students' progress and performance. Then the next one is final performance demonstration or report. It assesses student ability to apply what they have learned and showcase their abilities in a real life or simulated situation. And also the final performance demonstration or report, they evaluate students overall learning and ability to apply their knowledge in practical ways. And the third one is final project or creative portfolio. Um, a final project or creative portfolio is a way for students to showcase their understanding and skills in a creative and practical manner. This is also another way to evaluate student skills and knowledge. And the fourth one is um, chapter test or end of unit test. The chapter test or end of unit test is a specific assessment that focuses on the content and concept covered in a particular chapter of unit of study. And also, um, they contribute to the overall evaluation of students' learning and performance in the course. And the last one is standardized test. Standardized test, it evaluates student performance and understanding at the end of a specific period of learning. So that's the end of our report.